Hello, everyone. You are very welcome to today's webinar from the Ethical Supply Chain Program, where we will be sharing and discussing insights from the 2025 Worker Helpline Report. That helpline report was very recently published and has had a huge amount of interest and download. So, although this was quickly organised, we thought it would be a very useful amount, time spent by us all just to remind people of some of the insights and give an open forum for people to ask questions and discuss their challenges around creating mechanisms for effective worker communication. So you're very welcome. For those who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Carmel Giblin, and I'm very proud to be the CEO of the Ethical Supply Chain Program. We have a few colleagues on the webinar today. Anita Lowe is our Director of Worker Wellbeing, and Anita will be actually presenting most of the data. So once I've done my welcome, I'll be handing over to Anita and she will do most of the welcome. And then many of you will know Todd Merton. He is our Director of Membership and Partnership Growth, I think is the new title. Great to have them both with me here today. Today's really informal. It is an opportunity for you to ask any questions, share any challenges, be really comfortable that you've got some great expertise on the call in the form of Anita and Todd and others who are very happy to answer your questions. So, like I say, today is all around sharing some insights from our 2025 Helpline Report, which was published a few weeks ago. Just as a reminder, though, to those of you who don't know us very well, the Ethical Supply Chain Program is a not-for-profit organization that was created in 2004. So we are a little over 2 decades old now. Our priority and our mission is to ensure the fair treatment of workers in global supply chains. But we also want to do a bit more than that. We want to actually ensure that through all the efforts of our members, be they factory members, retailers, licensors, agents, manufacturers, etc., that we actually take the opportunities that our responsibilities around supply chain stewardship give us to think about how can we go further and create really positive impact for workers, but positive impact for workers that actually have business benefits and therefore are sustainable and scalable. And one of our flagship programs, if you like, is the Worker Helpline. The Worker Helpline was first launched in 2010, so has been operating for over 16 years now. It was launched in mainland China, which is where the world still, the majority of us all are sourcing from China. It remains the number one country for manufacturing and for exporting and meeting all our consumer needs. So we launched the helpline in China, really with the intention, and I know there is a lot of talk about effective grievance mechanisms, but for us, the helpline has always been about providing an effective communication bridge. Clearly, it's really important to give workers an opportunity to share grievances, to receive remediation and remedy for concerns that they may have. But we find it really valuable for their employers because it enables that communication more effectively. And Anita will share a lot more about the type of calls, the volume of calls, and so on. But I think for us, the helpline and for our members, the helpline has been a positive addition to effective due diligence programs. Not something to be nervous about. It's something that adds real value and really informs strategy. So 2010, we launched the helpline in China. And then in 2021, we expanded the helpline to Vietnam. And again, Anita will share more about our plans for future helpline expansion. One thing to note is that our helpline is people-led, and that's really important. I am a great supporter of technology, and I think technology is a great enabler of a lot of efficiencies and a lot of access to information that is really helpful. But equally, we all probably can recognize this in ourselves that when we have a real concern, we want to speak to somebody. We don't really want to put that into an app. We don't, we don't, we're a bit fearful maybe of who's looking at that data, how it's going to be managed, etc. So for us, the fact that our helpline is people-led has been really important to its success and the levels of trust that workers have in the helpline and the levels of trust that employers have in the helpline too. So that's really critical for us. I do think technology has an important role to play, and I'm sure during 2026 we'll be exploring that further. But our commitment to our helpline provision is that it will always be people-led. Another couple of points around the helpline are that the helpline enables any user to view data from the helpline, which really informs strategy. So you can look at how many times, how many calls are received from different suppliers in your supply chain or your own business. You can look at the nature of those calls. It can help inform strategy. So you can see where there are perhaps and opportunities to intervene with some more capability building training, for example, deploy a program, maybe like gender equality awareness training in your supply chain. So it's really important that the data that we collect is visible. It's also, I guess, 2 points further that if your factory, if your supplier is in, or you're a factory and you are in the ESCP certification program, you are automatically, using the worker helpline. So it's part of our program. It's really important that workers who are in certified factories have access to the helpline. So for anyone who's on the call who is working with an ESCP certified factory, or indeed is an ESCP certified factory, you already have full access to the helpline facilities and analytics. For those of you who maybe aren't in the ESCP certification program, that's not a barrier to deploying the helpline. And again, we have lots of examples that Anita will share from different sectors. For example, construction. So the helpline can be deployed as a standalone service as well as an integral part of the ESCP certification program. So this slide really just probably tells you everything I've just said. It is, like I say, really important to us that it's trusted. It's confidential, so we have very clear standard operating processes for how we manage and store data, how we share data. Sorry, I need to, how we manage and store data. And since we launched the helpline in 2010, it has been accessible to more than 10 million workers. Not sure what's going on with the presentation. Sorry. So yeah, it's been accessible by more than 10 million workers. Currently operating in China and Vietnam, with plans to expand in Indonesia very soon, and then other parts of the world. People powered, which I talked about, which is really important. And although ESCP definitely has our founding roots in the toy and entertainment industry, we now work in many other sectors. So apparel, footwear, hard lines, hard goods, a whole range of product categories. So the helpline is applicable and deployable no matter what industry you work in. I'll stop now and I'm going to hand over to Anita in a minute. But before I do that, I thought it'd be really good to get to know who's on the call. So we're going to interject a couple of polls throughout the presentation. And I guess also to point out that we are putting plenty of time into today's presentation for open discussion and the opportunity to answer any of your questions. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a chat button. If you click on the little upward arrow near the chat button, you can type in any question that you have. And at the end of, or towards the end of today's session, I'll come back and we'll have an open discussion and Q&A session where we'll answer as many of your questions as we possibly can. We are also recording today's session, so we will be able to distribute a recording of this, but we can remove anyone's questions if they don't want those to be covered. So we might take the question section out and just share the slides and then a written Q&A document afterwards. So don't worry about being confident to share your thoughts openly. Aria, just before we go into the key statistics slide, if you could go back one slide, Anita. So just before we move on, it would be great, like I say, to understand who is in the session today. So there's a couple of questions that should pop up on your screen. The first is just indicating what type of organization you are, and question two is, do you have a helpline in place? So I think many of you have already answered this while I'm talking, and it looks like we've got a lot of people in the other category, which I'm not sure what the other category is. So we have a lot of buyers on the call, but not many manufacturers or suppliers, which is interesting. So we'll delve in a little bit more and try and understand who others are on the call. But great to have that mixture, and also who's got a helpline in place. About 36% of you do have a helpline of some description, and I know there's lots of different mechanics for that, but the majority do not. So it's going to be a really useful call, I'm sure, today. So that's it from me. I will hand over to Anita and I'll come back and do the Q&A at the end. Just remember the chat feature on at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions as we go through. Thanks.
Okay.
Over to you, Anita.
Okay, thank you, Kamal. Welcome everyone again to this webinar. So let me take you through some of the key statistics in the report. For those who hasn't had chance to read through the report, so I will walk you through some of the key data. So in 2025, last year, our helpline handled over 1,000 cases and cover around 660 factories in China and Vietnam. And you can see that most of the call we received, or I would say half of it is between March and July period. That's really reflect the factory who are in our certification program. Those are the peak season of the production. And then my team on the grounds, they are spending over 5,000 minutes to talk to the workers, to understand what are the issue, and then to provide the support to them. One very interesting figure is about the demographic of the caller. You can see here showing that there's a 73% of the caller were male. But actually, in our ESCP certified factory, actually 62% of the workforce are female. So me and my team also discussing, why actually is more male to call us instead of female. So one thing we kind of like thinking is especially in China, the culture, I think the male is still the key family earners, the major income from male. So therefore, maybe they may have, if they are facing any issue at work, they would like to immediately resolve it to also ensure that they stay employed. We believe that may be one of the reasons. And then throughout the 1,000 cases, basically 96% of all cases, we could be able to resolve it through phone calls. We only have a very small percentage. We need further on-site investigations. Okay, so this slide is showing that what are the top 10 reasons for the workers to call us. So the first one is exploratory calls because many of workers, when they call us, they're a bit worried. So that's why they probably won't share their issue at the first call. So they would like to call us, talk to us a bit, and make sure that they feel comfortable before they really sharing more information with us. And then the second reason for the call is like resignation. So we understand that during the resignation, you may need to go through different processes. And then a lot of workers, they are not quite familiar with those processes, and they don't know how many days in advance they need to provide to their factory owner, and also when is the last day they could be the quickest day they could get the last payment. So that's why they will call us for support. And then number three is the helpline learning, because some of the workers would like to know what is the scope of the helpline team can help them, what kind of service we are able to offer. So that's why they will call and asking more details. Number four is about the personal issue. So they may call talking about the family relationship, parent and child relationship, any other issue related personal, not non-work related issue. And also number five is the factory rules and policy. So you may think about, okay, why they don't ask their factory manager about the factory rules and policy. In some cases, the workers, they would like to have a third-party organization to help them understand better about the rules and regulations, because we don't have any conflict of interest. So that's why we help them to better understand what are the legal requirements, also the rules and policies. And then number six is about the wages calculations. So a lot of them, they would like to clarify based on the money they receive, the working hours they spend each month. So they would like to understand how to calculate it. Number seven is about the termination, because a lot of workers are under like a working contract, employment contract. So some of them, they may have a duration. So if up to like a termination, they would like to understand the process as well as whether the termination is legal. So that's why they will call us about that. And also the leave arrangement. They would like to understand about what are the pay holidays, like including the parental leave or paternity leave. So they would like to understand how many days they are entitled. And then the number nine reason for call is like bonus and allowance. Many factory, they create a specific or special bonus and allowance for their workers. But we receive a lot of calls that's showing that the workers don't understand how to calculate. So this is one of the reasons we always share back with the factory, because I think as a factory owner, you want to create the allowance or bonus to better motivate your employees, right? If your employees don't know how to calculate why I cannot get it or somebody can get it. So I think that sometimes will demotivate. So that's why that is also very important to make sure the employees understand. And then the last one is about working hours. Again, the workers would like to understand more about the legal requirements, what are the legal allowed working hours to be. So let's take a deeper look into China. So last year, we were supported nearly 500 factory in China, and then managed nearly 760 cases. So in the among all these 760 cases, the top rank will be the also again resignation. So you may have a question in mind that, okay, if you want to do a resignation, definitely the workers can check the process with their supervisor or the HR function. But a lot of them, they don't want to be at that stage to share with the superior. They have the intention to resign. So the best way for them to call us, because they can call us anonymously, so they don't need to disclose their name or which factory they work with. They just need to asking what is their concern. We can share what is the legally requirements and also telling them what to do next. So, and then again, you will see number two is the helpline learning. So I won't repeat all one by one, but one thing I want to point out as well in the China specific, you will see the number 10, social security. We see some of the workers, they would like to understand how to, because China, they have their system. So they would like to understand how to operate their social security, what kind of benefits they may have. So that's why we see that in China specific, we see social security is also a top reason for call. And then throughout the whole year, from January to December, you can see kind of like the peak is in March to May. So is all over more than 10% of call in each month. So we believe that first of all, January and February normally is the Chinese New Year months. So definitely the call will be much lower. And then March will be when everyone come back after the long holidays. So they may have a lot of questions about how to calculate the wages as well as about the leave arrangement. So that's why we receive a more call. And April and May more traditionally is the order picking up until August. So therefore, there may be a lot of different kind of issue which the workers would like to learn more. So this is about like a China specific information. So next slide, we take a closer look into Vietnam. So in Vietnam, we handle around 300 cases, cover around 60 factory. So we do see the differences between China and Vietnam. We found that more people using email, sending comparatively, so to us, compared to the Chinese manufacturers. And also, if you look at the cases we manage in Vietnam and China, and the factory number we cover, you will see that maybe the culture differences. So leading we found that the Vietnamese are more vocal, or you can say they are more willing to share their issue, to kind of like willing to reach out to us to understand more. So therefore, even though we cover a lot less factory, but the cases we receive is much higher. And then the top coupled reason for call, one is about exploratory calls. They definitely need to be better understand us and then to build trust. And then we do see quite a large amount of call from Vietnam is about family issue or the personal issue. So a lot of them, they talk about a lot of family issue, parents and kids issue. So that's compared to China. We do receive some personal issue call from China, but comparatively, we do see more from Vietnam. And then one thing I want to point out is the termination is on number 4. So last year specifically, we see kind of like an uptrend in that category. So we did a closer look why that's happened. So we also talked to the factory owner and also the workers. We understand that due to the ordering patterns as well as decline in orders in different factory. So the factory management decided not to renew the contract. So therefore, we do receive a more call from the workers about the terminations. And again, Social Security, Vietnam definitely have other system. So they have, as per my understanding, they have a specific kind of like platform to kind of like the workers need to operate. We received a lot of call. They don't know how to do that. So that's why they call us. Okay, so let's talk about, Carmel also mentioned about that we do expand our helpline into different sector. One of the sector we kind of like starting to launch last year is in apparel. So we have a separate two helpline. One is working with web, another one is working with other apparel brands. So we understand that in apparel sector, even though more female workers in that sector, so we see that the the questions from those female workers kind of like different than the general line we received it. They're more like talking about family relationship. They care about their children education. They would like to learn more how to raise a kid, learn more how to support in terms of the childcare. So therefore, we definitely identify more key issue like talking about how to better support the living condition, as well as kind of like a counseling from this sector. And I think good thing is the insight helping us to develop further in terms of the like a training program, as well as we can provide different initiatives like our childcare support as well as family-friendly policy in order to retain the workers as well as provide better support, enhance the satisfaction rate. Another sector is the construction sector we work with. Last year, we also have two lines in this constructional sector. So you can see that most of the call, like 60% of the call is about delayed payment. I think that is the unique way of working in construction sector because a lot of general constructor, they will subcontracting different tasks of work. And sometimes even those subcontractors are involved. So therefore, that make a complexity in terms of the employment and as well as the kind of like salary pay. So last year we worked very closely with those big general constructor to ensure every single case we received under the delayed payment got resolved. So we were lucky we are able to resolve all the cases. And then another reason for call is about health and safety. Safety we classify as health and safety. So you think about a lot of constructional sites, they actually is really huge. And then we receive couple calls from the workers saying that when they need to go to toilet, they need to walk 30 minutes. So we immediately circle back with the general constructor and helping them to kind of like identify in which location is the best location for setting up more toilets and also like the food hygiene. We also care about make sure that they have a safe and high food hygiene canteen. So that is what we find in the construction sector. So yeah, that is the high level data I would like to share with you. So feel free to download the reports to take a closer look. Before we open the floor for questions, so I would like to take another two polls. So Aria, please help to provide the two polls. So this probably I need to give you a couple minutes to answer that two questions. The first one is about what are the challenges have you faced in deploying a helpline? So I remember in the first one or two pros, some of them you already have the helpline. So maybe you can share with us what are the challenges you're facing. And then if some of you are going to deploy a helpline, what are your expectations? So I give you a couple minutes to kind of like provide your answer. That is like a free text box. You can provide your answer. You can just provide some keywords. So we can kind of like identify what are your key challenges as well as the expectation. Yeah, I understand that when we launching our helpline, we definitely facing different challenges, like about how to engage the factory owners to buy in this project, how to ensure the workers are willing to share their issue, are willing to share with us. Those are also the challenge we face. We also maybe you are also facing the similar challenge maybe. Any other expectation you may have?
Maybe the survey is a little challenging, or not. The technology is not working. I'm not sure, but we if we want to close that area, if people are still submitting, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
right.
oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay, maybe that isn't quite the right way to answer it. But anyway,
yeah.
don't worry, we'll close that. If you close the poll, then let's get to the questions. Anita, thank you very much for sharing the insights. For any of you who haven't yet downloaded the insights report, then it is available on the website. So please do so. And we've got quite a lot of questions. So let me start running through these. I'll answer some, and then I might need some support from Anita as well. So the first one is, are we planning to expand the worker helpline to other countries? Yes, absolutely. We've seen the success of the helpline in China and in Vietnam. And our intention is to make it available wherever it is required. So, particularly, our initial focus will be in other parts of Southeast Asia. Indonesia is going to be live very shortly, and then other countries like India, Cambodia, etc., the Philippines, Malaysia, as are required. I think there is something that we will look into as we expand globally, which is there are potentially other very effective helplines, maybe in areas like Bangladesh, where there is a big apparel community. And rather than us duplicating effort, maybe there's an opportunity to collaborate. But where there isn't an existing helpline, we would definitely establish the ESCP one. So, yes, we will be expanding. And if you have particular countries in mind, then just get in touch with Anita, and
Mm.
she can add those countries to the list. That would be great. Next question was, as a buyer, we are not the employer of workers in the supply chain. So how does deployment work in this way, and what data can we see on calls received? So I'll answer a bit of it, and then maybe Anita, you can talk
Mm.
about the analytics side of it and what data is actually visible from a company. So yeah, most people aren't the employer within the supply chain. So we make the data, and that's not a barrier. Most companies, and even through regulation in Europe, you're seeing more and more expectations about effective grievance mechanisms or effective communication mechanisms or feedback loops between workers and management. I think as a buyer, we have an opportunity, or you have an opportunity to support your suppliers by giving them access to tools that are already established and effective and trusted. So it's not a barrier to being their direct employer. Their direct employer will see data, and you will also be able to see data. The important thing is that the data is anonymized. So you'll see trended data. You won't see, because it's really important that we protect the individual and their ability to have trust and confidence in the helpline. So you or their employer will not see exactly who is calling, but you would see the nature of the call. So it doesn't matter where you are in the supply chain, whether it's encouraging your suppliers to participate in a helpline or deploying it in your own operations. If you are the employer directly, that's perfectly possible and is very normal. Anita, maybe you could just talk a little bit about the sort of data that people can view, whether they're in the certified program or in just we're deploying a
Yeah.
helpline as a standalone service.
Yeah, for the certified program, we have a platform which Kamel also touch on that. You have as a buyer, you have a dashboard. You can see the number of calls received throughout the whole year, as well as the type of calls, the yearly trend, as well as to understand which factory they have more calls compared to the others, and as well as can be benchmarked with our ESCP data pool. For those non-certified factory or buyers, so they will be able to receive the like the data also about when the call we received it, the number of calls, the category of the calls, as well as we will provide some trend, like quarterly trend or half-year trend, to the brands and the factory.
Perfect. So next question, how does ESCP utilize the worker helpline data? We utilize it in a variety of ways. I think if it wasn't clear in this call, we generally receive about, I'd say, three types of calls to the helpline. The first being where there is a genuine labour standards issue, where there is a non-compliance against the standard, whether it's the ESCP standard or if we're deploying it as a standalone helpline for someone else, then is it a non-compliance against their standard? So we have calls where it's a non-compliance. We have calls where the worker just has not understood their responsibilities as an employee. So this helps to increase satisfaction in the workplace and remove any tension by explaining to the worker how to go about the resignation process, for example, correctly. So they're calls where there isn't a non-compliance issue, there's more of a misunderstanding. And the remaining third of calls really are not related to labour standards or environmental compliance at all. They are much more of a personal nature, and they could be from a migrant worker who's just moved to a new location and is seeking advice and help from registering with a doctor, opening a bank account, making friends. So across those three types of data, there's different responses. When it is a non-compliance issue, then if the factory is in the ESCP program, it has to be fully investigated. And our commitment is to remediate 100% of calls that come to the helpline related to ESCP certified factories. A couple of the slides that Anita showed on China and Vietnam just relate to ESCP certified factories. So we will work then with the factory management and with the worker directly to ensure that that issue is resolved. When they are across all that data, we also obviously build up a lot of trending information. So, for example, I think Anita showed that we get a lot more calls during peak production times. And what are the nature of those calls? So they could be about poor recruitment practices, for example. We could have withheld documents, or we could have excessive working hours, or some other misunderstanding. It could be about supervisors' skills. Often, a lot of supervisors have been promoted from the production line and they don't necessarily have the right skills to become managers. So, with that kind of insights, it enables us to create training programs that, with the intention that those training programs are scalable, can be used, and then we see a reduction in those labour standards non-compliances moving forward. So it is really important to us that the data is used to inform either our own training programs at ESCP or companies who are using the data, that their own training programs in either their own operations or something that they might want to do within their supply chain. So the data is incredibly useful. Next question. ESCP is not our audit program. Can we still use the ESCP helpline? Yes, of course you can. You're very welcome to. As I said, the ESCP certified factories means that they have access to the helpline already included in the fees that they pay us. If you want to deploy the helpline in non-ESCP certified factories, then we apply a fee. As a not-for-profit organisation, we're motivated about helping workers and helping companies improve standard in labour supply chains. So fees will be a lot less than maybe you fear, and it really does depend on the number of factories and the number of workers. With more than 16 years experience, we are able to fairly accurately forecast the volume of calls that we would expect. So again, get in touch with Anita after the call, just with some basic information like the number of factories, average number of workers, and then we can give you some estimates on cost for deployment if you're not in the ESCP program. Questions or a statement, I guess, someone saying that they've had difficulty launching their own helpline in China. How do we succeed? different countries have different legal requirements. China may have one set of requirements, the UK may have a set, the USA may have a set. So it's important that you take time to understand the legal requirements and obligations within whichever country that you're operating in. ESCP has had our helpline um, operating efficiently and effectively in China since 2010. So many years now of experience of working there. We, I think we are very clear in our role, and our role is to help provide and enhance communication between employers and employees. And that is successful. It adds value to their employees and the workers because it helps create harmony in the workplace. And that's really important. So our role and the role of any helpline should be to assist in effective worker management communication and improving the standards and improving the resilience of the supply chain through having a more stable, satisfied workforce. So, yeah, I think just take your time to understand what your obligations are in any country where you're considering deploying a helpline. And again, get in touch. We're happy to share our advice if you've got more specific questions that you want to ask on that. How much does it cost? I think I've covered that one. We are interested in engaging workers on a more regular basis. Would ESCP consider technology to help achieve this? Yes, we would. We've actually already started some conversations with a program that some of you may know called Ask the Worker, where we're looking at the role of technology in engaging workers to understand their level of satisfaction in the long term. I think there is a real difference between an app-led communication platform and a worker helpline. A worker helpline generally is there to help people who are in distress. Now, only a third of those calls may be someone who actually is in workplace difficulty that is out of their control. So a non-compliance, if you like, from their employer. Um, we know from our years of experience and the data that it takes time for a worker to trust the helpline. So that people-led approach is really important when you are dealing with the most egregious issues. And thankfully, the most egregious issues are quite small in volume, but they're really, really important and high risk. So for us, the helpline and having a people-led function is critical for this type of response. If you want to check general satisfaction levels, then I think there are some great opportunities and great technology platforms out there. And at ESCP, we're excited to continue the collaboration with Ask the Worker as a platform and see how we might deploy that throughout this year. And then I know we're really nearly closely out of time. So no, we're not just for the toy industry. So someone asked, we were very proud to be created with the support of the toy industry, but we now work in many other sectors. So apparel, footwear, construction, goods not for resale, all sorts of things. So yes, all sectors welcome to collaborate with us. What are the benefits do you see of using a people-led helpline? I think I've covered that. So it's trust. It's about building trust and developing that relationship. Yes, India, we'd love to work more in India. So yes, that's definitely on our list. And I think the final question is probably, oh, there might be two, but how can you encourage tier one suppliers to help get this level of transparency on the tier two supply chain for local source? I think it is a challenge. What we do is we use those tier one suppliers that we're working with as advocates. As Anita said, when we were first setting up the helpline 16 years ago, employers and most of those were at tier one level were quite nervous about the helpline, fearful that it was going to open floodgates to unreasonable allegations or whatever from workers. That's not proven to be the case at all. And actually, the tier one suppliers that are deploying the helpline tend to be our greatest advocates. So I think it's about showing the business benefits of a helpline, removing the concern about it being all about grievance. and thinking about it as building a more satisfied, more resilient workforce. I think that's the critical thing. Um, and then the last question I think we've got time for is just who's responsible for remediation. It really depends how we're deploying the helpline. If the facility is ESCP certified, then we are responsible for the remediation with the factory. That's ultimately the employer is responsible for the remediation of their workers' complaints if they're a non-compliance area. But we ensure that we're working with the employer to make sure that that remediation happens. If they don't remediate and it's a non-compliance issue, then that has different consequences in a certification program because we require our factories to be in compliance with all our requirements. But where we're deploying a helpline for a third party, whether it's another multi-stakeholder initiative like RAP, for example, or for a brand or a retailer as a standalone service, then it's up to them how they deal with their suppliers. So we will implement standard kind of operating processes that make sure everyone is very comfortable with that process of remediation. So that was a whistle stop through the Q&A. Thank you for so many questions. It's great to have so much interest in the helpline. We are out of time, so I will close the webinar for today. I thank you all for your attention. Like I say, if you haven't downloaded the helpline report, please do so. We have another actual webinar next week, which is looking at work wellbeing in the broader areas that we work in at Ethical Supply Chain Program. So we're really excited that. So I'd encourage you to look on the website and register for that webinar as well. We'll cover a little more on the helpline in that one, but also look at other elements like gender and work-life balance for workers with families and so on. So thank you very much for your time. Any more questions, please do get in touch.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.